slide. Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Horst Lüning. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com, and today we have the Famous Grouse here on my cask. And the Famous Grouse is a blended Scotch whisky, and it's the most often sold blended whisky in Scotland itself. So if the Scots prefer this whisky, it must be really good. Or cheap. This one is really worth the money. It's well below 20 for a full liter bottle. So it's a cheap whiskey, but it's a little bit more expensive than the discount whiskies. So this is a famous brand called Famous Grouse, and the Famous Grouse is printed here on the label, and whoever has been to Scotland and traveled the countryside, then you've seen this Famous Grouse beside the road. Yeah, there had been a computer game, Famous Grouse, in the past, and this gave really a spreading of the name of the Famous Grouse in other countries than English-speaking countries where Famous Grouse is known what it is. If you're looking for a reasonable priced blended Scotch whisky, you should go for this one. Whenever I'm in a bar or a restaurant, I'm not finding any particular malt whisky which I'm interested in, then I look for Famous Grouse, and well, it's there. Famous Grouse is owned by the Errington Group, and the Errington Group is in the hands of the Robertson Trust, and they are doing a lot of charity, or all what they're earning with their whisky operations is spread into education. I think grants for students or school children who are not able to pay for good schools. So here you're drinking for a good purpose. Yeah. The Errington Group has not only the Famous Grouse as a brand, but also Macallan, Highland Park, and Glenturret. I had some Glenturret lately, and one of the major lead brands in Glenturret, in the Famous Grouse, is of course Glenturret, and they call themselves home of the Famous Grouse. Yeah, 2 or 3 meters high statue of a Famous Grouse in the parking lot of Glenturret. They also possessed the distilleries of Glengoyne and Tamdhu, but they sold them to intensify the production of Macallan, of Famous Grouse, of course, and Highland Park. So they de-invested Tamdhu and Glengoyne, but invested in the other brands, and they are quite well successful. And the Grouse, as it's called, is available all around the world. How much malt whiskey is in this blended whiskey? Well, it's colored. You can't tell the age from the liquid, but typically those blended whiskeys in mass-produced blended whiskeys are from 3 years old casks, of course. And the amount of malt in it, I would guess from my experience, it's 15 to 25% of malt whiskey, and the rest is grain. Yeah. What's said on the back? Best-selling whiskey #1 in Scotland. Yeah. The Famous Grouse is Scotland's favorite whiskey. It's renowned for its smooth taste, which comes from a blend of the finest malt whiskies, including the Macallan and Highland Park. Well, they will be in, but the shortage of Macallan and Highland Park on the market will bring the amount of those two whiskies in this blend quite low. And exceptional grain whiskies, and that's how it will always be. As the Famous Grouse knows, a good reputation travels fast. Yeah, 40% ABV, 1 liter screw cap. I don't like them, but for a, well, not that expensive whiskey, a screw cap is okay. I have to say as a disclaimer first that I do not like the grain whiskies. And especially the grain whiskies in blends I do not like, because they are always a little bitter. And I first thought it would come from the grain, but the grain whiskey itself is mostly wheat whiskey nowadays, and this is quite smooth. It typically comes from the old reused casks in the blend business. They're used for 3 years, and then another 3, and 3 more, and 3 more, up to 30 years. And this brings, in the end, or after the 3rd filling, it brings just tannins, and no longer vanilla and caramel. So there's a ongoing effort to use more and more rejuvenated casks. So burn or toast them again, burn them again, bring more caramel and vanilla back to the top. So I typically find these bitterness very disturbing in a blend. Yeah, we see here. It's 3 years ago I had my last Famous Grouse. Quite a long time. It's light, a little dry, a little citrus fruit, and this is uncomplicated. This is really whiskey for the masses. In the back there is some oakiness developing, but no bitter nose. No. And citrus is stronger. I find a little caramel, but close to non-vanilla. Most of it is fruitiness, this little dry citrus fruitiness. Yeah. It's smooth on your tongue, but impacting with the oak. It's really spicy for a blended whiskey. There's some maltiness in it, and the bitterness of the oak is developing, yes. Those tannins. This might be very preferable for mixing. Adding Coke, then this spiciness and little bitterness will be strong enough to shine through. For a neat whiskey, it's okay. It's still okay. The bitterness fades quite fast. And this one is, because it's a blend, and I typically see blends as cheap blends, to be correct, as not very good. But this one is one of the best affordable or reasonably priced blends, really. Yeah. So if you're invited to a party and you do not know what to bring with you, a Famous Grouse is always a good choice. One part of the party is able to mix it with Coke and ice and still having the whiskey shine through, and the other is not too overwhelmed by the bitterness and the malt whiskey is already present, and it's not too strong. You do not have a too long and too heavy aftertaste. So it's usable for, yes, beginners and the masses. It's not too demanding with extraordinary taste, but it's a good one for a reasonably priced blend. Thank you for watching. There's more to come. I still have some blends found which I have to cover soon, so stay tuned.